As you mentioned before, nice bounce back by everybody last night, particularly your offense. In terms of Baker, though, what did you see today on the tape that you liked most? And then specifically, you guys were able to get him outside the pocket, which is really Baker's comfort zone. Was that more game plan specific? Because I don't remember seeing much of that in the Baltimore game.
Yeah, Tom, I would say a lot of times those things are game plan specific. And it varies, and each game calls for a different attack. But Baker did a very nice job last night, extremely accurate, whether from the pocket or on the move. Made really good decisions with the ball, albeit that one pick at the end, which I know he's not happy about. But really played fast, led the team. He did a nice job.
Thank you.
All right, our next question is going to come from Fred Greeton. Please unmute your line, Fred.
Hey, Coach. Did a really good job bottling up Joe Mixon. I mean, I think you held the Bengals like 2.8 yards a carry. So how big was that in forcing, Burrows to throw that many times?
Yeah, I think our front did a nice job. The defensive line was very aggressive. Joe Mixon is a heck of a back, and he's not easy to get on the ground. So there had to be some swarm tackling going on. But if you can limit the run game like we did, it applies a ton of pressure and allows our front to rush the passer.
Thank you.
Scott Petrick, you're up next. Please unmute your line.
Hey, Kevin, you mentioned the red zone in that goal line situation where you weren't able to score. And after the game, Nick Chubb said how grateful he was that you had the commitment to keep running the ball. As the play caller, kind of how do you balance, okay, let's keep trying to pound it in with, man, we get stuck a couple times. Do we have to try something different?
Yeah, there's a balance there, Scott. You try to just trust what you see and then ultimately trust your guys is really the way I look at it.
Thanks.
All right, our next one is going to come from Mary Kay. Mary Kay, please unmute your line, please.
Hey, Coach, can you just talk about, what kind of confidence boost this game was for your club after, just a rough first outing and, now you've got this 10 days to maybe heal up a little bit. How nice was it for so many people to feel so good about themselves leaving that stadium and then having this time to kind of regroup a little bit?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I thought it was a good team win. You should feel good about yourself when you get a win. Those aren't easy to come by. I will tell you, though, the coaches are meeting currently with the players, and you have to make corrections after a win. You can't just say, well, all right, we got the W. We must have done everything right, because that's definitely not the case. So we're working very hard right now in those meeting rooms, pointing out some things that we can do better. There's going to be things that happen in that game that we didn't do well enough, and we got to make sure that we make a correction for the next ball game and the one after that.
Thank you.
All right, our next one is going to come from Nate Orrick. Nate Orrick, you can unmute your line.
Hey, Kevin. I know I asked you about the right tackle situation last night, but Jedrick Wills on the left side, he had an interesting week with leaving the opener early and then, having x-rays and testing and being limited. What did he show you this week with the way he came through, and then how did he perform?
Yeah, these Thursday night games are hard on the players to answer the bell on a Thursday night after just playing a physical football game the week before. So it's not easy. And we had a bunch of guys grinding and trying to get to it and, weren't able to make it. Jedrick is somebody that, he's grinding himself. He had some really nice plays out there last night, and it's never perfect. I can promise you there's things we're going to work on, but he's showing the mentality of what we want this offense to look like, certainly what we want the offensive line to look like.
Because everything's so new to him, the NFL, new position, did you see growth from game one to game two, even though they're only 5 days apart?
I think you'll see growth from week to week throughout the season with all of our rookies. There's a speed of this game. There's different fronts that you face week to week. There's different style rushers. So you're just trying to learn from each one of these reps and apply some lessons learned in the next week.
Okay, we're going to go with our next one from Jake Trotter. Whenever you're ready, Jake.
Yeah, Kevin, is it possible you start to get some of these guys back defensively, who have been injured, Mac, Kevin, Greedy, whether they play or not, I guess we'll see. But is it possible they come back next week, at least to practice?
Yeah, Jake, it is possible, and I think all of them. It's nice to have this weekend here and get these extra days of rehab. They're all progressing. They're all moving in that right direction. Do I know that they're all going to play? I really don't know at this point, but I think they're all heading in the right direction.
Next one is going to come from Doug. Doug, please unmute your line.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for your time. I hope I asked this question correctly and you know what I'm trying to say. In your experience with quarterbacks, just thinking about last night with a guy like Baker in year 3, a guy like Joe Burrow as a rookie, do quarterbacks always get better as they get older and they get smarter and they understand the game better? Or do you ever feel like there are times when you would encourage a quarterback to remember, hey, when you were younger and maybe you didn't know everything and maybe you played a little freer? I'm just trying to figure out the balance as a quarterback matures, but also wants to maybe have that naive confidence in himself.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all of the quarterbacks, you would hope they're getting better with age. I hope all of us are getting better with age. But I think it just comes down to reps and how many times you can see a concept versus a specific coverage and then a different coverage and then a different look after that. So I just think you build upon those reps. Now, when you're a young guy like you're alluding to and you're just playing free and then maybe you don't have all those bank reps, you may be a little bit more aggressive. But I just think as you bank reps, ultimately that's where you really start to own these concepts.
And in your career, you see it, right? I mean, you see quarterbacks you're with, look, a couple years ago he was like this, but man, banking those reps has made a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, I would take you back to when I was fortunate enough to sit in the meeting room with Brett Favre. I wasn't doing much coaching, but I was just watching and listening, and the amount that he could have a dissertation on one play that went on for 20 minutes because he saw that blitz in 1994 from the Chicago Bears, and then he went this way, and he could have changed the line call to this. I mean, this rabbit hole goes so deep. I just think with all those reps and all those years of doing it at a high level can serve you well.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, we have 4 more questions, and we're going to make these our final 4. And we're going to start with Marla Ridnar. Please unmute your line.
Yeah, Coach, I know you talked last night about the 7s versus 3s and on the 4th down thing, but is there any part of that that's sort of tied to faith in your guys and showing them that and, kind of establishing that mentality early on?
I think, Marla, we're just trying to be aggressive and smart at the same time. But I will tell you, yeah, I trust my guys. I trust these guys. I see it at practice. I'm counting on them. I'm going to continue to count on them. That won't change. Jake, there better be a follow-up question coming from that young lady.
Do you want to ask a question, Dorothy? Say, good win last night. All right, I'm going back on mute.
All right.
Go
ahead, Marla.
I did want to ask a quick follow-up. Did you get that aggressive style from any coach you worked for in the past?
The aggressive style,
play calling and gambling, a little gambling.
I hope I got a lot from the people that I've worked with over the years, and then honestly, I hope I've taken something from each one of the coordinators, the head coaches I've worked with. So specifically, no, I wouldn't single anybody out, but I will tell you, I'm a product of all of that development I had with those guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marla. Now we're next with Mary Kay. Mary Kay, you can unmute your line.
Hey, Coach. Speaking of Brett Favre, obviously he was a gunslinger and very aggressive and kind of had that mentality. Baker has some of that in him, and occasionally it goes awry, like it often, sometimes did with Brett too. So I guess my question is, what is your feeling and how do you sort of strike the balance when you're coaching an aggressive gunslinger quarterback like that, and he's throwing some interceptions? You want him to cut down on those, but you don't want to detract from, just his aggressiveness and his swagger that he brings.
Yeah, Mary Kay, we talk a lot about the balance between being aggressive and smart. So I want our quarterbacks to be aggressive. I also want them to know the value of the football. So we teach on every single play. We give them reads that are very black and white. And then when the play breaks down or the play goes off schedule, you just trust those guys to get smarter as the down gets longer. And Baker's ability to make plays outside the pocket is something that comes to him very naturally and something that's important to our style of play. And I thought it was on display last night.
Are you confident that as he gets more comfortable in this scheme and with all the safety valves that you have built in, that was an interception in 8 straight games, which is an NFL long right now. Are you confident that as he gets more comfortable, he'll find his safety valves and you might have fewer interceptions with him?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I would say that is always going to be the focal point for our quarterbacks, our running backs, our wide receivers. Ball security is paramount. So we spend a ton of time on the technique of how you hold it. We spend a ton of time with the quarterback on his decision making. So we'll always be making sure that's an important part of our teaching moments or taking care of that rock.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, we're down to the final two. And our first of the final two is Scott Petrick. You can unmute your line when you're ready, Scott.
Hey, Kevin, I want to ask about the defense, but first, Adrian Claiborne, do you have any update? Is he going to be okay?
No real update other than he injured his hip, and we're monitoring it and getting a few more tests.
And anybody else injured yesterday? I mean, he was the only one I think announced.
That's it.
All right, and then defense, obviously you mentioned a few of the good things that it did last night, but still 30 points. So what are the areas that you're targeting for improvement?
Yeah, I think overall we just got to make sure we're getting off the field. I think they were 5 for 5 on 4th down. So we'll look at that and pull it apart and say, what are the ways that we can just get off this field? You know, it's hard. There's going to be some attacks where the guys are moving the ball, but if we can find a way to get off that field, if we can find a way to turn the ball over, that'll play to our strengths.
Thanks.
All right, and we're down to our final question, and it's going to come from Nate Ulrich. Whenever you unmute your line, Nate, you can start with your question.
Kevin, we asked you a bunch in the past few days about the connection between Baker and Odell, and you had said after the opener that something you got to get to the bottom of. How valuable was it for them to come out and be more efficient last night? And do you think that they took a step that you might be able to parlay into, future success between those two?
Yeah, I think as it relates to the offense and whether it's just those two in particular, I would really hope that we're one game better every single week here. So that's going to be the precision in the pass game. You would hope that with more game reps, it helps the offensive line, helps the backs, helps the receivers. In total, I think that these game reps are totally invaluable to what we're doing. So I really hope that there's a constant improvement going on.